Hello and welcome. I'm going to pull cards. This is a reading leading up to the full moon in Capricorn on Sunday, July 21st. And I'm just going to burn some cedar and some sage and some Palo Santo to start. And I did this reading differently than I've ever done one on my channel before by dictating basically what the positions were going to be before I pulled the cards, and then I went through the line and I pulled all of the cards and interpreted it as one whole picture. So I'm going to run down the line of the energy positions that I pulled, and what they are is current energy, energy to embrace, energy to release, the conflict energy, or the energy that's causing the most conflict, or the energy that can name the conflicts right now, biggest sticking point, biggest area of attachment, which I'll explain as being different from a sticking point when we get there. And then biggest recent victory, biggest incoming victory, challenge, blind spot, advice, and then a 3-card spread for the full moon itself and what it's bringing into our lives. And I'm just going to get right into it. The one intro message that I do have is, I don't know if people saw this. I can't believe I didn't see it. This is the stuff that should be on front page headlines, if you ask me. And maybe it was, and I just didn't see it. But if you're not familiar, there's a Lakota prophecy around the white buffalo. And we had a white buffalo calf born in June of this year, a little over a month ago now. And it was born in Yellowstone. It's a white buffalo calf, and they're said to be sacred omens. And its birth is fulfilling a prophecy, but it's also a signifier of great need for balance on earth, and a messenger around the balance that's required to maintain Earth's sacred harmony, which, people who don't speak in those terms will be like, yeah, okay, Earth's sacred harmony, but we've been violating Earth's sacred harmony for a little while now. Perhaps that's why the white buffalo calf was born. And it can be a messenger of the fact that when Earth herself falls into low vibrational states, she will purge that energy, right, by having earthquakes and natural disasters, and it's the physical embodiment of Earth hurting. And as the Earth dwellers, we also hurt when those things happen. So we've, as a people, just generally speaking, very successfully divorced from the energies of Earth, or most people have, for most of their lives. It's how humanity and society has become. And we have to change that if we want to survive, really. So I just thought that was interesting. I didn't know that the white buffalo had been born. It's beautiful. I'm like, I must go to it. And they named it and everything. It's something worth celebrating. But it's also worth looking into, right, what it means for us. And a lot of the messages that it brings are just on par with the collective awakening that we're experiencing in 2024. So first card out for the current energy, we have the 3 of Pentacles. And what I'm feeling, like the message that I got when I pulled this card for 3 of Pentacles, of course, it's a card of collaboration. It's a Pentacles card, so it's about the physical things in our lives. And what I heard was putting all of the pieces together. It sort of feels like we've been managing our lives, bringing in new energy, making something of that new energy, but not really being able to wrangle these separate pieces, whatever that means for you and your situation, all at once. So it could be a collaboration between you and other people. Perhaps you've been in a hermit energy, and now it's going to be an easier time for you in the energies leading up to the full moon to start getting the help you need, asking for the help you need, or manifesting the help you need, as in it just comes to you, right? Or it could be a collaborative essence between the physical aspects of your life, physical domains of your life. Like you could see this as you, and these as your spirit guides, and this as some sort of grand plan. And I also get, just with any number 3 card, there's a mind, body, spirit thing. So the pieces, putting the pieces together is about moving in a little bit more of a synchronous harmony around how we're executing day in, day out, not feeling like one day belongs to this thing and one day belongs to that thing. It's a little bit more of a wholesome picture, and it feels good, like sitting in this energy, thinking about it being the current energy for today, for the week. I like it. I think it feels good. And then following it up, the energy to embrace. And this can also be like in this space, right? It's not like the project's done. It's not 10 of Pentacles. It's just after, the fresh start, number 1, the decisions, the motion, picking a fork in the road. It's 3. It's a building number, right? In architecture, 3 triangles, like with bridges and whatnot, that's a stable number. It's what we can build upon. So even though it's not all the way there to anything, there's a confidence within this. And the energy to embrace is also about confidence, but it's the Page of Cups. So it's more so about how we're feeling. And if you hear like this low-grade grumble in the background, it's because my dog is here just emitting a constant stream of noise. He's sleeping a little bit. So it's a fresh, young energy, but for some reason, right, because pages are like younger of the court cards. So it could be seen as a young energy, but it's also like adolescent. If we think about childhood as the young energy, this would be the high schooler. It's like the older, it's the more mature, yet still fresh and young movement forward, a new level of something. And so there's like a message with this one for me in the embrace position around setting yourself free and letting yourself be confident and optimistic in the things that you're allowing yourself to focus on right now. And I talk about this sometimes when I pull this card, but there's like a zero gravity effect happening with the garment that surrounds her. The waves are also up and, about to crash, but it's like this moment of feeling free, feeling a little bit more weightless, and reminding yourself that there are people out there who are the idol for many, but they're also someone else's worst enemy. And there's people who in some people's eyes are incredibly experienced, and in the eyes of other people, they're very inexperienced. Everything is very subjective, right? And how you judge yourself impacts how you present yourself and feel about yourself, and it's as within, so without type stuff. And so there's something to be embraced around not really needing to focus on any, we'll get to it with, the release position here, because what we have is the 5 of Wands. And this is like a too many cooks in the kitchen card. So there's something about allowing for feedback from others that's been impacting the way that you feel, well-intentioned or not, intended to harm or intended to help, intended to do whatever it's done. It could be that we need to release that a little bit and just lean into the insight that we have for putting the pieces together and seeing things again as a collaboration with the self and what we've done thus far in 2024. And I think that when you do that for yourself, you naturally end up having a lot of compassion for other people, because you know how hard you're working, you know what you're going through, you know how often you have to forgive yourself and just keep going. And when you do know that about yourself, you would never meet another person and not give them the benefit of the doubt that they might be doing that too. And I've been noticing recently just like the collective energy with how it's affecting random people in the public, right? A lot of people are getting to this highly emotional state. Perhaps they're in an older generation where like therapy wasn't, as acceptable to access, or it wasn't as necessary back then because everybody was, in the same level of shutdownness or whatever it may be, but not as attuned to their own emotions and therefore emotional and, self-regulation. So they're more prone to project and be like volatile. And it's not that other people don't feel what they feel. It's just that a lot of people are coming into these new like heightened states of energy and they're being really triggered by it and they don't know what to do with it. And I'm going to give examples here. Okay, well, I have a few, but I want to get this, I don't want this reading to be super long because I'm tired. And the reason why I did this way is because I don't know if I'm capable of doing like a free-form ramble reading because of the way the energy feels. So it's like structured, right? But I go on a lot of tangents. So I'm trying to just keep those to a minimum tonight, if any. One example is that I was walking my dog last night, and sometimes I walk with headphones in, but they're not playing anything just because I do want to walk in silence. But it's interesting how people respond to you or talk to you, whether or not you're wearing headphones. So anyway, had headphones in, passed a woman who was sitting on her doorstep. And I didn't really look at her because I was walking, I was on my phone, but out of my periphery, I did notice that there was somebody there. And right after I passed her, she goes, "Fuck you." And I turned around and looked at her. But the second I saw her, like I really saw her, she was kind of strung out looking. Her aura, like everything was just imploded, just very like drawn in, suffering. It was a scene of suffering. And so like in my mind, I was like, you probably say this to everybody who walks past. Like I knew it wasn't about me. All I got when I looked at her was a vision and like a dose basically, you know, through my sensory information input arena of her pain and her suffering. And I was just like, you know, it wasn't a good situation. I didn't feel personally victimized, but what my mouth said was, "Excuse me?" Because if anybody says that to me, I'm going to just check right in with you. Not to be confrontational, but it's a response to a confrontational thing. And she didn't hear me, you know, she was in her own world. But if we interact with anybody who's interacting with the chaos frequency right now without the higher consciousness around how to handle that and why it's happening or anything, you can go to that level, or you can try to diffuse any type of interaction like that by just moving past it. You know, if I could do it over. For a second, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said it like that, because I was just like, can I help you? We don't want for things that are already in a certain place energetically ever with our contribution to get worse. And so there's something around embracing this, like, you know, sense of self where we deserve to just, and I heard just now, put ourselves out there, because it's like the extension of an arm, put ourselves out there, but not necessarily in any one specific way, just in the way that being alive is, you know, intense. It can be mildly painful. You know, a lot of people shut down because of that, and we have to be able to see that other people have that too, right? Regardless of how they're presenting. Some people are very ignorant to it, but appear very happy, or you just never know. You can't judge. And so we're releasing the competition around how we're doing versus how other people are doing, disagreement for the sake of disagreement, needing to be right in any type of way for the sake of being right. And then following that up, the conflict energy is strength. So this is the first major arcana of the reading, and I think that this is very, very interesting in the conflict position. And there's something around feeling uncomfortable right now. Another message that I got when I sat down to do this before I even pulled any cards or set up the spread was about feeling like we're in two worlds, feeling like a microcosm of the larger stuff happening in the world right now. But the two worlds thing having to do with, right, putting the pieces together. Where are all the pieces from? I think if you found this reading and you're watching me, it has to do with things that you've been changing or things that have been changing for you that have parted the way, parted the seas to a new, extrapolation, a new ability to psychically see or imagine, right? A new avenue through the imaginal realms into something that wasn't there before, that doesn't resemble your old life. And in order to stick to that and move into it, it's a path of least resistance. And this is our conflict because it has to do with controlling, right? And knowing that, like, she's basically this lion's handler, human, animal. But who's stronger and what does it mean for them to coexist in the same space? If you have two wolves inside of you, if these were the two wolves inside of you, they're sort of exquisitely balanced within this. But the challenge in the current energies, and just note the infinity, like forever moving, right? Constant arrival, constant departure, realizing that sets you free in this timeless acceptance. And the anxiety that we get, or the feeling of not meeting a mark at any point in time. It could be like, oh no, I'm late for my dentist appointment, or I forgot to send the email, or something a little bit more major. It's within how you're perceiving what has happened. So it's a little bit like against the grain right now to just demand patience out of yourself, because they're hurried energies. They're energies with multiple retrogrades going on that we would be prone to be, making missteps. And in order to try to mitigate that, right? No one's perfect, but we can try to mitigate that. There's a slowness that we have to command within ourselves. And if the world around you is not moving slow, I mean, in capitalist America, it doesn't really move that slow, right? Or like social media, nothing moves slowly. And that's what we have to invoke in order to make it through. But it's creating a conflict, because back to the two worlds thing, the new avenue that we've created, that we've been moving towards, that you're putting the pieces together for, embracing this sort of like innocent, illuminated, and I heard light body. People could be undergoing a lot of physical changes related to the new frequencies, especially if you've been taking care of yourself, or if you haven't, right? It could go two ways. I certainly have. I'm not going to talk about that right now, but a lighter body emotionally, right? Not as attached to all of the burdens at all times. Another thing that we do, or that people can tend to do, and I just saw 717, which is the date today. It was 1717 on the clock, but we like to keep our minds, I don't know what I'm seeing. This is a funny vision. Okay, here we go. It's a child's toy from the early 2000s, and they're like squishy balls with spikes, but there was a hole, and what I used to do with mine was turn it inside out, and you could just turn the whole thing inside out. So all the spikes were on the inside, and it was like a squishy ball, okay? And then once you did that, like the vision is spreading it over the edges of something, and then the edges, like, I'm not doing a very good job of describing this. Say I have, this is a tea light candle holder that's a crystal. If I had that ball and I tried to stretch it over the edges of this, the material might break over these points. It might rip, it might shred. That's what we try to do with our essence, our focus, our ability to get things done. In a lot of, well, not in a lot of cultures, in today's world, whatever, in America, where it's our world, for no accidental way, has been, sort of homogenized, right, with different cultures. People in Canada talk about this, especially in lieu of recent events in the political scene, with like, people fearing America's influence bleeding out and blowing out, rather, like a full diaper. It's not beneficial to spread ourselves thin like that, because you can rip at the seams. We're not meant to encompass everything at once. Your mind isn't meant to hold all of it all at once, but that type of ability is praised, and few people are capable of it. And even if they are, something else has to give, right? We're meant to be in the moment. We're meant to be present. This is also the energy that's contributed to the like de-feminization of women, like stripping women of their inherent feminine intuitive qualities and trying to keep them on the same playing field as men in the world. But it's a toxic template of the masculine energy. So there's something funny leading up to this full moon, and I sense that for the collective, if you're resonating with what I've been talking about so far, it's going to subside after the full moon actually happens, because this is like, you know, full moons are big turning points. It's the beginning of a new cycle. So there's something that will come to pass that is feeling like we're not capable in some way, but that's why we're scaling it back to the fact that you're able to collaborate in this energy, even just with yourself, even just with, it could look, you know, like when you have a piece of furniture that comes in the mail that's assembly only. I ordered a litter box for my cat. I thought it was a great idea because it was like more of a concealed unit where it could be hidden and I didn't have to look at it. I thought she would like it, the whole thing. It was good purchase, but it sat on my floor in a pile of pieces for 2 months. And I have a couple friends. One of them doesn't live here, but I was like, I wish I could call her. My other friend does live here, but she wasn't available. Some people really they have a brain that likes looking at a manual, and it's fun for them, like a puzzle, to put all the pieces together, and I despise it. And so I waited, and I just had this pile of pieces until she was free to come over and help me do it. And we put it together on Sunday. But it feels in this energy, just getting back to that, like we have this pile of pieces and we know what they all are. And if you think that you can't start to unite them, right? And it has to do with doing it, like maybe the uniting of the pieces is the way that you spend your time differently during your days. Something's going to be giving way where you're going to be able to spend your time ticking more boxes. And it's not because we're spreading ourselves over all the boxes. It's that the boxes are merging into, you know, the same essence. You being you the way that you are now is checking all those boxes because they're consolidating somehow. Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the sticking point. So I have a few, you know, like energy to release, conflict energy, sticking point. They're all kind of similar, but there's different nuance to what that is energetically. So this was the conflict because it's causing us the most conflict. I would say, you know, we're digging our heels in a little bit for just relaxing into the inner calm that's available. If you can't get to a state of excitement or, you know, connecting with your visions that help you kind of relax into this creative space of flow, then at least strive for calm. I'm seeing the emotional scale that ascends and then descends. And I think psychologists will tell you this too. If you can't reach for like an exhilarated state of bliss and like euphoria of like love, you know, and unity, like the highest frequencies that a human can access, then go for one that's slightly neighboring to it, but that's still higher to where you are now. So there's something about just conjuring this courageousness, right? Because she has no fear. To be able to sit with an apex predator, the most feared animal in the jungle, with her tits out, that's saying something. So we need to be able to get into that somehow, you know, one way or another, even if it's not a full sense of surrender because the faith hasn't been cultivated. The conscious mind will always tell you that the faith is not compatible with the conscious mind. The conscious mind is governed by the ego, and it will try to talk you out of that calm. So the sticking point, though, we got the 8 of Cups, okay? So something around not being able to move on, something that emotionally we might not even be conscious of, that we're holding. Because this is typically, in my mind, even though there's a sadness around this card, it feels liberating because we wouldn't want to be in a situation that isn't for our highest good. In my opinion, right, it's worse to be with somebody that you don't want to be with than to be alone. And a lot of people don't feel that way. A lot of people fear deeply being alone. And so they won't ever, you know, leave somebody who is abusive or just not the right match for them on multiple levels. I mean, that also has to do with myths around like, yeah, you have to, you know, make compromises and you do. But I don't think you should have to compromise on certain things. And there's something around, and I'm not even thinking that this is relationship based necessarily. It could be, but it's almost like we can't, like, you'll never, if you're holding onto the shore, even if the next shore, like a little kiddie pool, right? Maybe you can't get to the other side unless you release this hand over here in order to fully move into this next bay. There's something waiting to receive us that we're not going to be able to move into. Now I'm also getting drawn back to this because of the 8, and this is the 8 of Cups. It's like they're looking at each other a little bit. Sticking point is fear of this kind of release that may be hard to name, but it's a feeling. And I think that it's going to become, in the days leading up to the full moon, more and more conscious. And I don't think we're going to have to fight to discover it if we're not conscious of if we're not aware, consciously aware of where this resides, like for us right now. It'll make itself known. And that too is not to be feared, because with transits like this, with all the retrogrades and the fact that these two full moons have both been Capricorn. So there's this, I think I talked about this the other day, but I might not have posted this video. Paternal bookending of lessons, and how we're big, like major things are capable of being accomplished right now. And if you don't resonate with that right off the bat, maybe that's because, again, we associate accomplishment much of the time with tangible physical evidence. But the accomplishment between the last Capricorn full moon and this one is that we got all the pieces out of the box. It's okay if they've been sitting on the floor for 2 months or a month or 5 months, because now you know what to do with them a little bit. You know, you're focused less on what other people are doing. You see yourself in this liberated state where it's like, you know what, even if they're not going to calm the F down, I can. Because getting all swirled up in this means that my garment isn't going to float, you know? And I've never seen this before like this, but it's almost like she came out of the sea and her clothes are all wet. And that would feel heavy, right? When we're saturated emotionally. Like if you were wearing wet clothes, it's heavy. And it's not comfy. They stick to you. I'm just seeing somebody take all their clothes off, right? Like freeing yourself of these layers. And so this kind of goes well with the next position. Biggest area of attachment. I want to clarify the difference between the sticking point and the biggest area of attachment, because what we got for the biggest area of attachment is the moon. And he's looking at the moon here. So I want to talk about the strength message again, because if this is an attachment, again, it has to do with control. It has to do with knowing that trusting the intuition is literally a different muscle than trusting the mind, right? You don't have control when you trust the intuition, but you're not supposed to. We've been made to think that if we don't fully know what's going on, then we're naive or unprepared or disadvantaged. But you can be incredibly powerfully positioned if you're allowing what comes through to speak louder. And by that I mean moment to moment of what's revealed, if you're truly conscious and paying attention. Like to go out into nature, to meditate, to let your mind's thoughts not be nonstop. A lot of people don't even fully, witness how many thoughts that they have in a day. It's nonstop for most people. And then they don't sleep well and they're up at night, or they, are doing things in their free time, drinking, smoking, drugs of other kinds, to not have to deal with those incessant thoughts. Instead of realizing that the mind and the thoughts that are going through it is just the pace of the energy, like boiling water, right? The more you sit with the boiling water, if you don't apply the fire to it, you turn the burner off, it would eventually calm to a stillness. And from that place, the guidance emerges. And I'm also noticing, which I've never noticed in this card before, behind her head, it's like sitting outside at night. You might not see all of the stars at once, but for the amount of time that you sit there, more and more will be revealed, given it's a clear night and the visibility is good. And so if this is the area of attachment, it has to do with the illusions that we're still putting too much weight on. We're still giving too much stock and currency to what we haven't been able to integrate because it's pressing on us a little bit. And that's why I said that this isn't something that you have to go digging for. Because again, that's like, I have to add something else to my thing. Just let things happen the way that they're happening. Feeling the feelings in this bookended thing of the Capricorn full moons is processing them. You might not like it, but when you feel, you're allowing them to move through, you know? And again, saying like, you might not like it. We don't have to judge it, right? We're not always happy or clear or we're not always anything, right? Change is the only constant. This full moon is also going to help us realize what we've been enacting without realizing it. I think that this full moon is going to bring more evidence, not from what's happening next or what's going to happen after it, but evidence in the way of seeing things that have already happened for the facts that there was a tether within us energetically that was populating that loop. And maybe we didn't see that before. So these two kind of go together, but there's also, I mean, look at them. They're both seated, relaxed, allowing for the way to become clear, right? All right, and then the biggest recent victory is the Knight of Swords. So it's a victory, and we like that. Sometimes this can be a bit of a hasty, rushed energy that could miss steps required for the level of criticality or carefulness that something requires in order to be, meaningful. But that's not what this is. It's saying that we've had the determination necessary to move through whatever we've been moving through. I really like this in a recent victory because it's a stubbornness, but it's not in the wrong way. It's something that we've been keeping alive despite all odds recently. And it can be an overbearing energy. So I know, because I am a person out in the world and I'm very sensitive and I feel other people's energies pretty readily. A lot of people have been feeling like just at the mercy of their lives and their schedules and super overwhelmed. Like I don't like these words, but suffocating. And I'm also seeing people trying to stay afloat, keep their head above water. There's a determination that we've had in order to move through all of the solar flares, the strangeness with the narratives that are passing us by, how other people at different levels of awakenedness are handling those, right? And then going through their own stuff and just all of it. There's a determination around the things that whatever you truly desire and want for yourself, and whatever you want for yourself can be wonderful and rewarding and glorious and abundant, right? It can be materially rewarding too. It doesn't just have to be some, altruistic thing. But the key within that is that you being nourished on every level and abundant and successful in the ways that you want also services every other person you could possibly come into contact with. Why wouldn't healthy, healed people who are successful and happy benefit one another? It doesn't have to be at anybody's expense. And so I'm just, for some reason, being brought back to this here too, around competition. And there could be something with this full moon around reevaluating why you've wanted the things that you've wanted up until this point. And there also might be something, this is like a side message that might not resonate with everybody, but I'm getting it, so I'm going to say it. Realizing that certain things haven't come into your life because you haven't wanted them for the right reasons, and you thought that you had, but there was something acting, something within your subconscious that you weren't aware of, that you were manifesting from and with, right? Something that you kept talking about, kept fearing, and it could be inherited. It could be so deeply, it could be a familial ancestral bloodline thing, or it could be from something that happened in childhood that you don't even remember, but it always affected you thereafter, things like that. But there's a reevaluation on not having to fight so hard around bringing things in. The new chapter that we're moving into is all about letting things be accomplished by way of ease instead of force, which is super beautiful. Like, doesn't that just sound nice? You can relax now. It's gonna be all right. We love that. The biggest incoming victory, and for this, I do feel like it's after the full moon. Biggest incoming victory is the Hanged Man. And with this card, we're typically taking a new look, looking anew at something that we've been more engrossed in, because that new vantage point is going to help us understand it in a new way. But it has to do with being taken out of the game. Just a little bit. It's an inactivity, but it's a necessary inactivity. And it's allowing for opportunities to come to you. And it makes me think of what I was just saying around relaxing, right? Letting it come to you. Other people, like, again, with taking things slow and not having that jive with the way that things have to be done and like deadlines and bleh, and bleh, and whatever it is, there's a release around that, and it's a self-granted permission, and you don't need other people's permission to do things the way that you need to do them right now. I mean, the disclaimer is always like, you in your alignment will never harm anybody. If you're going against people or harming people, then you know that it's not right. But I don't have to say that. People know that. Surrendering to whatever, and I'm also hearing complete inversion. Complete inversion. And now I'm seeing one of those inversion tables that you can get where you like kind of strap yourself in and then you tip yourself back. They're really good for spinal alignment and circulation. They're really good for, doing inversions is good for, not just on an inversion table, but yogic inversions, shoulder stands, headstands, all of that. That could be a message for somebody right now around like spinal alignment. I'm really getting like the need to stretch after saying that, because it's like after the full moon there's something that's going to be put on its head, but it's good. And the fact that this is a incoming victory means that if you feel, and if you've done one of these inversion tables, you'll know that it's kind of fun, because like you have to kind of tip yourself back, but at a certain point the fulcrum, the axis of your body weight you don't have to push yourself back anymore. Your weight will just take you back. So leading up to the weekend, we're going to be like pushing a little bit again with being determined about the things that we have to do. And again, I'm seeing like the waves parting or something in like fog parting, the imaginal realms, all of the pieces. You're going to be able to consolidate the boxes of your priorities, your truth. And then when you start to go back, it gives me the sensation in my tummy of like, kind of like how it feels when you're driving on like, depending on where you live, maybe people don't have this experience, but growing up, I lived in like country roads. You could just go real fast, but there'd be like, ups and downs, and it'd make your tummy flip, right? Like back country roads, just driving, and your stomach kind of flips. It's kind of an anxious anticipation energy. But then once you're all the way back, you know that that's where you're supposed to be, because something transformative is happening, right? And your spinal column is allowed to experience the gravity taking the vertebrae soft and squishy like marshmallows, giving them more space and breathing room. And there's something essential about this coming in for us, this inversion post full moon. It's the biggest incoming victory, is allowing yourself not to get scared when you feel that change of like butterflies as well. Butterflies. There's a difference between butterflies and fight or flight. I say that because a lot of people, people talk about butterflies as being something that they get when they're talking to somebody that they like, right? Or somebody that makes you nervous. But a lot of people actually, there's a reason sometimes why you feel that way around somebody, and it's because they remind you of somebody that you had to be hypervigilant around in the past. And it's actually more of a coded trauma response than it is a sign of compatibility, but that's a whole other thing. So we're not going to go there. The challenge right now, we got the Queen of Cups and the blind spot. I'm going to pull at the same time because they're both queens. It's the Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Cups, Queen of Pentacles. So the challenge with the Queen of Cups is really about, I see the Queen of Cups as a sense of mastery around this beautiful intuitive thing. And when we're sort of riddling out some of this subconscious stuff, we don't feel as effortless. She's effortlessly nurturing and loving. She doesn't even realize how easily it comes to her because her sign is water. It flows out of her. It's easy. And it's also a very creative energy because the emotional energy, right? Sexual energy, fluids flowing, all of that. Intuitively flowing, not stopping any of the flow that comes through. Whether or not you're a woman or a man, you have a flow. And to be in touch with yin energy, feminine energy, is to allow that flow. And the more you allow that flow, the more creative you will be, or amplified energetically. And the blind spot is that we don't realize how secure we will be by embodying that. It's actually an inside job, right? Security. As within, so without is coming up again. Queen of Pentacles it's a secure energy, but it's also taking pleasure in the security that you have now, that you would like to have, as if it's already here. And I'm also getting a message right now about breathing, something strange about a bathtub. I don't know. Pulling a plug out of a bathtub. I don't know. I'm not really, there's actually a few visions that go with that. And I feel like that's a little bit, I'm not going to go into it. Scratch that. Bathtub. That could be a synchronicity for somebody. I'll just say that. All right. So the advice is the Magician. And I love that because it reminds us, I've been saying like as above, so below, as within, so without throughout the reading. It's our alchemical master of creation. You don't do things by force. You don't do things fearing that if you don't do something, they won't happen. What you do is a result of what you understand. And we understand more than we ever have. It's a confident energy. It's confident in the same way that these cards are. And I'm hearing again, you don't need anybody's permission to go into a chamber of counsel with your higher self and your spirit guides. You don't have to ask anybody what's right for you. You know that. And if you don't, it's because the water's boiling and you might need some time to sit outside and look at the moon and see how many more stars appear. Because those stars are going to be the pieces that you can use to build and assemble right now. And so the confidence is the same energy of this page, right? It's like putting yourself out there, but not again for any one purpose. It's just because you exist. You're already out there. And I talked about this in the car the other day, but a lot of people are living their lives like just completely wasting away. They're not existing at all. They're enslaved. And there's so much I'm just trying to be careful with my words, because I was going to say effort, but it's not effort. It's again about allowing, and for the effort to be that of the universes, because you're in a space of allowing. But instead of effort, I'll say concentration. Because the world right now, if you haven't noticed, there's plenty of distractions, and not all of them are working anymore. And so they're heightening, and the tactics are getting more twisted. And in order to make this happen, right? See the position of his hands, the wand, this thing, that thing, the cup, the sword, the pentacle. There's a delicate balance, and the concentration is a result of you staying in this elemental alignment where you're honoring, your special recipe of what you need to feel good and move through what's happening right now. Nobody else has the recipe for that. It's yours. And so there's a protection around that, not for fear of it being taken from you, but because, without knowing it, a lot of people interact with other people and judge how they're doing things and say like, well, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I can't. No. I have some examples that I don't want to say right now because they just feel like longer tangents that I want to go on, but it's okay to not push against the ways that distractions try to take you out, whether or not they be people or forces or situations. You don't have to push against them, because you're in certain circumstances for certain reasons, right? But the more you don't push and you let them be as they are, the less those types of things will materialize and manifest around you, because you'll be transcending the way that you interact with them and moving into a completely different bandwidth of frequency where those things don't exist. So the concentration is on staying in that space where it makes sense to you, regardless of other people understanding that for you. Don't let other people's discomfort around what you're doing question yourself. We have about 30 minutes till dinner. Okay? 30 minutes. Go be patient. All right, now the full moon. I pulled 3 cards for the full moon, and I'm going to pull 3 Ascended Master cards to clarify them. But the 3 are the 2 of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the 10 of Wands. So there's something beautiful around, again, with like this tipping point. If you were to be in an inversion table, all of these wands would fall out. Heavy, heavy burdens, right? And like becoming more weightless has been a theme throughout the entire reading as well, with what I talked about with this. We are going to be releasing forms of oppression, certain forms of oppression we didn't even realize we were saddled with, that have to do with the way that we've subconsciously felt about certain things, or our subconscious resistance to moving into the unknown. A human's ability to phoenix through phases and transform is truly unlimited. Truly unlimited. I said something to somebody the other day. Somebody was talking to me. He's probably 15 years older than me, and he was saying, I envision myself as a 65-year-old man just possessing a lot of wisdom. And I said, age is just a number. Wisdom isn't earned. And a lot of people would hear that and think that I am, just, I don't know, being arrogant or younger. But really, wisdom's about awareness. It's about how much you allow yourself to truly see things as they are and witness. I don't think what I said was interpreted correctly. I don't think it was received properly, and that's okay. I get it. But there's something about this, again, just this part of the year, this year in general, next year too is going to be a major one. Like these are transformative times. And we're sort of having our minds blown open with what we could be and what we could do. Again, going back to the tunnel of the imaginal realm, like that psychic sight into envisioning what you want, what could happen. You can't take these wands where you're going, but you don't have to. They're going to fall out of the satchel. And then, once it's not a big bundle and they're strewn all over the rocks and you're hanging upside down looking at them, you'll be like, oh, I see these things individually for what they are. I didn't even know that I had accumulated them. And you don't have to sit there and sift through them if you don't want. The point is that they're off your back. And then, here, looking out, there's a level, again, I said like effort before, and then I switched it to concentration with the magician energies and the alchemical progression, right? This like spiritual smartness, intelligence around navigability. There's a strategic energy to that, but it doesn't have to do with forcing anything. It has to do with focusing on you, focusing on your personal clarity, having victories through dropping burdens and being able to go forward. And there might be some decisions involved with this full moon or after or during this full moon. So trust yourself and remember that the biggest incoming victory, right? Because this is a card of clarity and victory. The biggest incoming victory is something seen and new, something put on its head. So let's clarify now with these guys. I want 3, and then I'll stop the reading. We got them. Okay, Mother Mary. Let go of the need to be right with this and what I was talking about before. Choose peace. Mother healing is possible at this time. That takes me back to, we saw two queens. Queen of Pentacles, Queen of Cups. Choose peace. That person just like randomly accosting me on the sidewalk. There's been other instances like that where it just seems like regardless of approaching situations that there's just volatility out there right now. And you can choose peace regardless of that. And it's always easier to do that if you can just like hold space for the fact that anybody fussing, right? Just see into the inner child. Any adult who's awful is a tantruming inner child. There's something so fundamental, so out of integration within that human that all you can do is see the web of all of us connected and feel sorry, not to pity a person, but to conjure some compassion. And then we have Almoira, awakening presence. The universe is with you. Wear a cloak of protection and love. Yeah, really, really seriously good time to use crystals. Hematite, black tourmaline, selenite, green quartz. Labradorite. Labradorite can help people right now if you're having a hard time calming your mind. And the last one is Brigid, inner strength, move back to wholeness, recognize that you have the power. Yeah, I'm getting this energy with this. Beautiful. And I'm also seeing the fire. She's holding it in her hands, and it's like almost like a cups card, right? A cup, a chalice of some kind, but it's fire. It's burning, and it's burning on the heart space. I didn't end up saying this vision. I was seeing a bathtub and a plug, and I was seeing something about the chakras, the heart space, breath, emotions. It's like a long message. It's like a 20-minute video onto itself, so I'm not going to go into it, but connecting really strongly with all and any of the emotions that arise during this time, with how they resonate in the body. Like when you're thinking about something or processing something, where do you feel it in yourself? The thought, the concept, you being overtaken by an idea, or you imagining your perfect reality. It affects your body. You feel it in your body when we hold things in our minds and our hearts and our body, right? It's all connected. So we're being asked to focus on that and then use elemental energy by way of visualization, right? Or getting in touch with like somebody who actually is a practitioner and does this, moving energy. But you can move energy out of your body. You can bring in healing energy by connecting. And now amethyst, it's coming into my mind as far as crystals for connecting with high vibrational energy, the highest frequencies of love and light, and bringing them in to replace areas of stuckness. You can't successfully remove and release blockages without replacing that energy. But anyway, yeah, just the fire of the heart space and allowing it to burn away everything that is not aligned with truth, right? Burning through illusions. The illusions of the collective world, the illusions of your past, the illusions of things that you've held without knowing it, and all of the illusions that wrap fear around issues where faith should be instead. Okay. And I can't believe I didn't say this because this was like the first thing that I got with these messages for this time. It could feel, as a conclusory note, it could feel like you've been moving a little bit just for a minute, like the past 2-3 days, like either stopping or feeling like funny or like moving a little bit backwards before maybe feeling, however you were feeling before you went down a little bit or you went back a little bit. If that's true for you, that's okay. That's to be expected right now. So there's something about just like this funniness. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It means that you're properly attuned. But to not connect your creative point to that, to continue to be, again, with your own, special recipe of peace from within. Like you do know what's good for you. You do know what helps. You do know what hurts. Try not to go back to old methods of self-soothing that weren't beneficial. That's a big theme right now. All right. I hope that everybody's doing well. And happy full moon.